Welcome to part 2 of 4 on how I would fix the DCEU and its main characters, Batman, Superman, The Flash, and the Justice League. In part 1, I covered how I would fix The Flash and how I would give him his own trilogy. And in part 2, we're taking a look at the Man of Steel himself, Superman. Now, I'm not rewriting history. Man of Steel exists in my canon, and I love what Zack Snyder did with Man of Steel. Man of Steel is one of my favorite Superman movies. It probably is my favorite. It showed a really human side to Superman. Yes, the ending is a little weird and abrupt. Superman kills Zod, and then it cuts to the scene with Superman and the General. It was a bit strange. I needed a bit more resolution to that. And then Batman v Superman happened. And despite it not being what I would have done with the character, I did enjoy Superman's arc in that film. Him questioning himself, him questioning his beliefs, his ideals, what he stands for. Him being questioned by humanity pushing him aside, not wanting him as their protector, but then in the end realizing that he has to be his protector because this is his world. He may be alien, he may be Kryptonian, but Earth is his home. It's his world. A world he chose to defend, a world he died for. And despite the weird CGI lip, Superman in Justice League was what I wanted from the beginning. Yes, I love Man of Steel. Yes, it took a more human approach to the character, but my biggest complaint of that film is that he's so monosyllabic. He doesn't talk enough. And Justice League, he may have talked a little bit too much.
Is this guy still bothering you?
But for me, Superman felt like Superman. He jumped off the page. He felt like the Superman from the Rebirth comics. When he returned from the dead and reunited with Lois and his mother, I teared up. It was really powerful stuff. And it's a shame the stuff in the scout ship was cut because it really mirrored the beginning of Man of Steel where he found the Kryptonian ship and got his suit. And for all those saying that Zack Snyder didn't understand Superman and made him too dark and broody, and that the sudden shift of him being more lighthearted and optimistic was Zack Snyder being forced by the studio. But I believe that from the beginning, Zack Snyder did want Superman to be more optimistic, more hopeful. I mean, look at the Alfred scene.
I'm assuming you're Alfred.
Master Kent.
It's clear that it wasn't shot by Joss Whedon because he doesn't have the weird dodgy CGI lip. But anyway, the point is, Superman in Justice League was awesome. When he showed up to fight Steppenwolf, I got goosebumps.
We're all too weak to see the truth.
Well, I believe in truth. But I'm also a big fan of justice.
I was so happy to see him, and I love Henry Cavill. I think he is perfect. He looks like Superman. He sounds like Superman. If only he was in the perfect Superman film. If Superman the movie met Man of Steel, I think that we would have probably the best Superman movie out there. And jumping straight into it, that's kind of what I want to do for Man of Steel 2. Man of Steel 2 will be Superman the movie without all the origin stuff. Superman is the best. Superman is the best. Picture the scene. There's a close-up of a bird on a building. The focus suddenly pulls outwards to the sky where we see a plane flying by. And as we zoom in closer to the plane, bam! There's Superman, soaring across the sky with Hans Zimmer's flight theme playing in the background. He hears a cry for help. He swoops around the plane, and he dives into Metropolis. He dives straight into an alleyway and lands, blocking the bullet that a mugger shot at a woman. The bullet bouncing off his chest as it clatters to the ground. He looks up, smiles, makes a little remark, and knocks out the criminal. He makes sure that the woman is okay before he takes off and heads to the Daily Planet. Now, one of the biggest questions that Justice League didn't answer is how the hell is Clark Kent allowed to walk around? Everyone thinks he's dead. Well, I think the easiest explanation is that Clark told everyone that he faked his death, because when he went to Gotham investigating the Batman, he got in touch with the wrong people and feared his life, so he needed a way to lay low and ensure that his family weren't in danger. Now, this explanation doesn't fool everyone. To the common person, they buy it. But to Perry White, he doesn't, especially since he was at Clark's open casket funeral. So yes, Perry White knows Clark Kent is Superman. And of course he doesn't reveal his secret because he knows the good Superman has done. I mean, he saved his life in Man of Steel. If Superman didn't stop that world engine in the Indian Ocean, Perry would have been dead. And because of that, he keeps Clark's identity a secret. Now, Lois and Clark are both investigating LexCorp, as they've noticed a few discrepancies in the accounts, which makes them both think that Lex Luthor is up to something, as it's public knowledge that at the end of Justice League, Lex Luthor had escaped from prison, and their relationship is good. Great, in fact, especially since now they're engaged. I want there to be a scene in the movie where Lois tells her parents about the story about how Clark proposes to her. So she basically describes that deleted scene from the third Justice League trailer where Clark walks out and goes,
I'll take that as a yes.
What?
The ring.
So it's a kind of indirect reference to that deleted scene in Justice League. And when Lois and Clark aren't investigating Lex Luthor and LexCorp, they're planning their wedding. Now we join Lex Luthor, who is still played by Jesse Eisenberg. And look, I like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I think he has this really creepy aura around him. He may not be accurate to Lex Luthor, but at the end of Justice League, he did feel kind of similar to how I would expect Lex Luthor to act. And I still stand by that. If you gave that role to Bryan Cranston and you kept the dialogue in Batman vs Superman the same, no one would be complaining about it. But anyways, Lex is carefully assembling his plans to form his Legion of Doom. He's having weapons and military resources sent to a certain organization called the League of Shadows. He's hiring Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, to find and protect individuals that Lex deems suitable to be part of his Legion of Doom. But Lex hasn't let old habits die. He knows all this money will be traced eventually, and he'll be caught specifically by the big blue Boy Scout in the sky. So he's got something cooking in his lab for Clark. Something a little bizarre. And a lot of this movie is investigative reporting sprinkled in with some awesome Superman action. Superman saving people, Superman saving boats from sinking, Superman saving buildings from falling over. Just fun, happy-going, optimistic Superman, improving his public image, becoming the icon that we all know, love, and aspire to be. So the final act consists of Lois and Clark discovering where Lex Luthor is. Clark suits up as Superman as Lois and the FBI heads over to arrest Lex Luthor. When they arrive, it seems like Luthor is ready to come willingly. And just before Lex Luthor is put in cuffs, Bizarro comes smashing through the wall, and immediately Superman engages. This would have been a tough fight for Superman 2 movies ago, but this Superman has fought and killed Doomsday. This Superman has fought a new god with ease. And the fight between Superman and Bizarro is very one-sided. And the fight isn't just about trading blows, it's Superman also protecting innocent people from harm. And so the movie ends with Lex Luthor in prison, Bizarro defeated, and Lois and Clark getting married. Although Clark is obviously late to the wedding, and when they are married and they're heading off towards their honeymoon, Clark hears a scream for help. With a kiss, a smile, and a go get him from Lois, Clark rips off his tuxedo, revealing his Superman suit, and blasts off to go and save the day, as the movie ends. And although Lex is in prison, he's not as deranged as he was in Batman vs Superman. In fact, he's quite calm. Very calm. Almost as if he wants to be there. Hey, pay attention to that. That's gonna come into play in my Justice League 2. So yeah, that's how I would do Man of Steel 2. Superman the movie meets Man of Steel. Let's have the big, the bombastic, the fun, and the optimistic Superman, mixed in with the investigative reporting that we saw in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. I wanted to have a more human story, to break up from the alien nature of Man of Steel, especially since my version of Man of Steel 3 involves quite a lot of Kryptonian elements. And with all that being said, let's just jump straight into my pitch for Man of Steel 3.
Superman is the best. Superman is the best.
Man of Steel 3 is where we pay off all the alien elements that were set up in the previous films involving Superman. So after years of discussion, Captain Lennox and the US government have given Superman permission to take control of this Kryptonian scout ship. So Superman takes the ship back to the Arctic, and he uses his freeze breath to craft his Fortress of Solitude. After working on repairing the Kryptonian ship for what seems like hours, Clark checks the time and realizes that he's late for dinner. He flies home to meet a very pregnant Lois Lane. And a lot of Clark and Lois's dynamic in this film is all about parenthood. Are they ready to be parents? How can you be Superman and a dad at the same time? And as the film continues, Clark continues to repair the scout ship. And as he's looking through the archives, he realizes something. He realized that one of the Kryptonian pods had been opened centuries ago, and the person in the pod was wearing a tracker, which led directly to the Antarctic. So Superman heads towards the last location read by the tracker, and discovers another Kryptonian ship, and inside, he finds a young girl, and wearing a Kryptonian armor crescent with the House of El. This is Kara Zor-El. This is Supergirl. And so after Superman manages to awaken her and calm her down, he takes her home to Lois. But as they leave the scout ship, the liquid Geo forms a very familiar symbol, the symbol of Brainiac. So at the Kent house, Clark and Kara discuss everything. Krypton, why Kara had come to Earth, why Kara had been trapped in ice for so long. Now, Kara was sent to Earth as a Kryptonian scout to search for resources. She noticed that there was another scout ship and went over there to see if anyone was there. And the last thing she remembered was entering the scout ship before she saw 3 dots appear in front of her eyes. And the next thing she knew, Clark had found her. Intrigued by this, Clark decides that he'll go and research the 3 dots later. But for the meantime, he and Lois help Kara adjust to life on Earth. And so when Clark and Kara go back to the scout ship to discover the mystery of the 3 dots, this is when Brainiac reveals himself to Superman. Now, when Brainiac had awoken, he hacked into the Fortress of Solitude to discover what had happened for the past couple of centuries. He started to hack into satellites, gathering information, specifically information on the Kryptonian invasion that occurred during the events of Man of Steel, revealing to Superman that his purpose was similar to that of General Zod, to rebuild Krypton. Superman explains to Brainiac that the Kryptonians have no right to take over Earth, that this planet belongs to the humans. And with this, Brainiac tells Superman,
"But aren't you the Codex? Aren't you the key to Krypton's survival?"
Superman then echoes a line that he once said to General Zod in Man of Steel.
Krypton
Brainiac realizes that the Codex doesn't need to be in a living host in order for it to be extracted, and with this, Brainiac activates the Phantom Drive and opens up the Phantom Zone, and out comes Faora and the other Kryptonian. But they're followed by other things that come up from the Phantom Zone. The Colonel from Man of Steel, Dr. Emil Hamilton. Faora and her Kryptonian companions discover what happened to their beloved general, and how Kal-El had killed their beloved General Zod. And with this, she swears revenge on Superman and starts to attack the people of Earth. It's at this moment where Clark and Kara kick into action, and a massive fight and brawl breaks out between the Kryptonians. Superman fights the companions while Kara takes a shot at Faora. Faora, with more brutal military training, easily beats Kara, while Superman deals with her Kryptonian cronies with ease, whilst also protecting the innocent. This is the time where Kara is put to the test. Is she really a hero? So Kara and Clark fight Faora fiercely, and as they manage to push her back into the Phantom Zone, something else emerges. Something bony. Something huge, something spiky, Doomsday. Clark looks brave, but on the inside he's terrified. After all, last time he fought a version of Doomsday, he died. But just before Doomsday could do anything, out comes a white and red blur. It's Krypto the Superdog, who in this version belongs to Kara, as Kal in Man of Steel was just born and wouldn't have memories of a dog that he had owned on Krypton. And so Superman, Supergirl, and Krypto fight Doomsday. Superman and Krypto do more of the heavy punching, whilst Kara is there looking after and protecting the civilians. With the Phantom Zone still being open and the civilians out of harm's way, Clark, Kara, and Krypto manage to force Doomsday back into the Phantom Zone and close it. As they quickly head back to the scout ship where Brainiac is located, they realize that Brainiac is disappearing. He's transferring his consciousness to another location, but to Clark and Kara, it looks like he's dying, and Brainiac makes it seem so. He says things like Earth is unconquerable when Superman is around, and how the mission to create a new Krypton is pointless. But secretly, he's just fleeing to bide his time, to come up with a new plan. And as the movie wraps up, Lois gives birth to Jonathan Kent. And now Superman is a father. Throughout the movie, he's trained Supergirl to become a hero, and now he feels like he's ready for parenthood. And the movie ends with the Kents bringing home young Jonathan Kent, leaving it open for a trilogy for where Superman becomes a father and we see Jonathan Kent grow up to become the young super son. And yeah, that's my idea for how I would do the Man of Steel trilogy, blending in the sci-fi elements Zack Snyder had introduced in Man of Steel, whilst bringing in the more culturally recognizable aspects of Superman like his optimism and his cheerfulness. Stay tuned for part 3 where I pitch my trilogy for the Dark Knight himself, the Batman. Hey, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave me a comment down below. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell to stay notified. My social media links are down in the description, so if you give them a look and a follow, that'd be real nice. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.